Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our just post lunchtime session. I hope that you are all refreshed. You've had a snack, you've got your energy burst to keep you going. We've got a feast of sessions for you remaining this afternoon. One of those is coming at you now. We are privileged to have Dr. Dr Goldston, Professor of Project and Supply Chain Management at Penn State University, the US, here with us. He's awake very early this morning to share this presentation with us. So can I get a show of hands here for some thanks for that? Shame we're waking these poor people up at all hours to come and do these presentations. So Justin's going to be talking about AI for good, leveraging artificial intelligence for positive global advantage. Regardless of the profession, project managers spend a large percentage of time on administrative tasks instead of managing projects. With the inclusion of artificial intelligence, we can introduce an augmented intelligence tool for project managers to reduce the risk of failed projects. With 81% of project management respondents noting that AI has impacted their organization in a 2019 study conducted by the Project Management Institute. AI will soon emerge into the project management practice, creating a competitive advantage for organizations to develop a tool such as this. So thank you, Justin, for being with us today. We appreciate your time and we look forward to this presentation. And this is a really, really interesting topic. So take it away.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for attending this discussion. I'm just going to show my screen. Hold on. Let's see here. Boom, share. All right. So now you should share everything, correct?
Yes.
All
just
right.
Put it in.
We're good?
We're good.
Okay. All right, perfect. I can't see your screen, so that's why I have to ask. All right, so thank you all for attending this discussion. I am Justin Goldston, and I want to essentially blend the project management discipline with a current project that I'm trying to scope out. So this content is coming from a forthcoming book that I'm writing called AI for Good. And given the recent developments and changes within the AI space, some of the things that I'll be sharing will be shared for the first time. So a little bit about myself. I am a professor of project and supply chain management at Penn State University, where my research is focused on blending the emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence and blockchain with supply chain management and sustainability. This is the first week back in the fall semester at Penn State, and I actually welcomed the freshman class at Penn State last Friday. So that was an excellent accomplishment. One thing that I like to share. But I'm also a visiting professor at Georgetown University, as well as a graduate advisory board member at Georgetown. I spent the last year at Georgetown working with them to develop their master's in supply chain program. And if you are interested in studying in the U.S., that is one program along with Penn State from a supply chain management perspective. Outside of academia, I serve on a number of boards, including the International Supply Chain Education Alliance, as well as the Association of Supply Chain Management. So, to set the framework of this discussion, I hope that what I'm about to discuss will be applicable to you all, and I hope that it will be applicable to how you view the remainder of these discussions, in that I hope that you're able to see things through a systems thinking lens. Now, my peers within higher education that have this narrow focus, They come to me and say, well, whenever you're doing presentations, sometimes you're talking about project management. Sometimes you're talking about blockchain. Sometimes you're talking about artificial intelligence. Sometimes you're talking about sustainability. Choose a lane, right? And I say that because all of those disciplines are interconnected. Systems thinking is my lane. And I think that from a supply chain management perspective, we have seen that we have to view everything through a systems thinking lens. We've seen all of the things, the environmental issues, the societal issues, were all impacted by one another, right? So I would say that as you continue to listen to these presentations, to view these presentations through a systems thinking lens and understand how some disciplines, although I might be talking about project management and sustainability in this discussion, how is it going to impact supply chain management? Because everything's interconnected, right?
Sorry, Justin.
Uh-huh.
Can you move closer to the microphone? It's quite quiet coming through.
What about now?
Thank you. That's better. Thank you.
All right. Perfect. So whenever I'm talking about my project, I want to frame it like from a sustainability perspective. And I want you to look at this from a systems thinking approach. And one thing I always talk about is whenever you look at the UN Sustainable Development Goals, I always ask people, I ask my students, I ask professionals within the industry, I say, look at all of these 17 SDGs and pick your top two. Okay. And as you're looking through these, you can type that in the chat. And I want you to see how all of these could potentially be interconnected, right? So initially, I did some research for a fashion institute in the UK where I interviewed sustainability professionals as well as fashion people in the fashion industry. And going into that research, I felt that industry innovation and infrastructure and SDG 4 quality education, those will be my top two because all of these others would fall into place if I could leverage technology to democratize education, right? Now, in speaking with other professionals in the industry, there was one individual in Europe that he developed an artificial intelligence tool to fight hunger. And, he said, Justin, your idea to democratize these SDGs with AI is an excellent idea. But without SDG 17, without the partnerships, I don't think you can achieve it. Right? So from a project management perspective, you also have to bring in how AI can leverage and mitigate the risk from a project management approach in order to collect data from previous projects to see what the issues were with those previous projects to inform you of future projects. Right. So again, look at those SDGs and type in, what are your top two SDGs from a sustainable development goal perspective. So the UN SDGs are the foundation of my research in that I took a deep dive in each UN SDG, right? And I looked at it from a global lens of each UN SDG because quality education in the US is totally different than quality education in Africa, right? So with that information, with that task at hand, that led me to the second part of what we refer to as citizen science. So citizen science is essentially where you do not have to be a trained researcher. You do not have to be within the space of academia to be a citizen scientist. Darwin was not a trained citizen scientist. So, and it's also my thought that in order to meet and achieve all the UN SDGs, in order to achieve those 2030 goals, we could get every professor at every institution around the world and we still would not achieve it, because there's too much data to collect, there's too much data to analyze. So because of that, we need citizen scientists from around the world to collaborate, to work together, to leverage this tool that we refer to as AI in order to potentially meet those goals. So that's one thing that I would always, because another thing I always say is, from a sustainability perspective, a lot of us are on these conferences. A lot of us are listening to this presentation because we get it. We understand the importance of sustainability. We understand the importance of using AI for good, right? So now it's up to every single person on this presentation to educate others. Yes, AI can be leveraged for profitability of an organization, but in addition to profitability, it can be leveraged for good. And then that's going to create an even larger benefit to an organization's bottom line. If it creates a larger benefit to the organization's bottom line, that creates opportunities for others around the world, and that's how it can lead to a positive global change. So citizen scientist is kind of the second pillar to this research. And from a project management perspective, we can take all this data that's collected through citizen scientists, and we can democratize technology, and we can share this information. So OpenAI, we can share this information. We can make this information public, so that we can work together to reduce project risk against different projects. And you say, okay, why am I going to share my data with my competitors? My thing is, we're all in this together. We all have to collaborate. People disagree with me, but there's enough money to go around. There's enough capital to go around. Yes, we live in a capitalist society, but if we all work together, and if we all continue to have this capitalistic mindset, there may not be a world for us to profit from, right? So we all have to come together to share this knowledge, to kind of get on the same accord to how can we live in a more sustainable world, a more sustainable society. So that leads me into organizational citizenship, where, we have this, what I refer to the buzzword as corporate social responsibility. And we have this term of corporate citizenship. I don't like that term, because in teaching in a number of graduate programs, whenever we say, we're doing classes on corporate social responsibility, students feel that it's the responsibility of Fortune 100 companies. It's the responsibility of Fortune 500 companies to make a positive change from a sustainability perspective, from an environmental perspective, from a diversity and inclusion perspective. My thing is, I kind of switched that to organizational citizenship, because it's everyone's responsibility, right? So in addition to citizen scientists working together for a more sustainable world and collecting this data that we can feed into our project management systems to make better informed, more sustainable decisions, organizations have to participate as well. Because organizations manufacturing organizations have data that we can share that can positively impact us from an environmental perspective. You have companies such as, some people's not going to like this, but you have organizations such as Google and Facebook that have data that we could positively impact from, to make a more sustainable, more equitable world, more diverse and inclusive world, right? So we also have to have organizations to participate as well from an organizational citizenship perspective. So you see that, in order to achieve sustainability, in order for me to achieve my UN Sustainable Goal project, in order to leverage artificial intelligence for global good, I'm going to need a number of citizen scientists from around the world. I'm going to need a number of organizations from around the world to participate, to share data, to democratize the technology, to make it available for everyone, so that we see how we're progressing toward the 2030 UN Sustainability Development Goals, right? To see where we're falling short, to see what part of the world needs more focus. Right, because right now, in my opinion, if I'm looking at the data, I have students look at the data, because there's a gap in the data collection at this given point in time. There's a lot of assumptions being made. Right, and I think that, whenever we have those assumptions being made, I think that we are searching for, we're trying to address the wrong problems. But if we have more citizen scientists participate, if we have more organizations practicing organizational citizenship, I think that we'll be in a better spot. So going back into, this whole concept of AI, you can see that under this AI umbrella, you have artificial intelligence. And I say that, and this kind of introduces us into a presentation I first introduced at an institution in Germany in January of last year, where I say that, we're moving into a world of integrated intelligent automation, where currently or previously we had all of this technology working in their own silos. Although, the sales personnel would say that everything is integrated. We still have things working in silos, but I think that we're moving to a world, what I call the Web3 movement, where we have this collision course of blockchain, of artificial intelligence, of the Internet of Things. And I think that we need to leverage that not only for profitability, but for good. Right. And from a project management perspective, if we're able to collect all of this data, we're able to make better informed decisions. So although some of you are familiar with this whole concept of AI, and whenever I say AI, I refer to it as augmented intelligence. You still need, individuals to review that information to make informed decisions. Now, from a current state perspective, we have what I refer to as a AI maturity, if you will. Okay, and starting at the bottom level, you have business process automation. Sometimes people refer to business process automation as dumb AI, and some of you within ERP applications, that can be referred to as workflows. Right. So we have these procedures we have within our ERP applications where we automate repetitive processes. So invoice approvals, purchase order approvals. We can build that into our system, and if it's under a particular threshold, it automatically executes that step. Right. Now, with the next progression in our AI maturity, Elon Musk, one person that I look up to, the most. I always want to get in AI in Elon's. I call it Elon AI. Elon's mind, in that, what would Elon do, right? And he said that just last week. He said that Tesla is building a robot, building a bot, and I'm very curious to see how that is going to transform the supply chain industry. I'm very curious to see how that's going to transform the project management industry. I'm very curious to see how he looks to make a positive impact on the world using that robot. Now, from a robotic process automation perspective. I always say from an RPA perspective as it pertains to sustainability, as it pertains to enterprise applications, as it pertains to project management. When we think of RPA, think of chatbots. I always say that a few years ago, I think that this is becoming more of a norm within enterprise applications, where you can have an Alexa or a Siri within your ERP system. Right now, if you look at that from a project management perspective, I could have this RPA tool to say, give me the current burn rate of this project. Are we going to, based on the data, based on simulations that we can run using AI, using ML, machine learning, give me the probability of this project ending on budget, going over schedule. We can build those tools within our applications to mitigate risk from a project management perspective. So when transferring that to my project, to my AI for Good project, to my sustainability project, I can look at all of my data and I can use robotic process automation, and I can say, okay, how close are we are collecting our data around the world from a quality education perspective, hypothetically. That automates the process, because at the current state, I have a big question mark. So now we can leverage these tools that we have at our disposal that are currently being used for profitability, but now we can use it for good. So moving on to machine learning. From a marketing perspective, from a sales perspective, a lot of people are saying that they are selling artificial intelligence, but in reality, they're just using it's just machine learning, right? Now, with machine learning, you have a lot of different flavors and models. I can have a conversation for an hour on this one slide alone, but so machine learning is essentially, at the foundation of artificial intelligence, where we're going to have structured data, data from a spreadsheet, similar to what the information that you see in many enterprise applications. And you have unstructured data. You have videos you can dissect information from. You have social media you can dissect information from. And from a project management perspective, you can be informed of machine learning because this AI tool can learn from data from previous projects. From a sustainability perspective, machine learning can learn from information that we can scrape from the internet. If we use if we practice organizational citizenship, we can use machine learning to extract data from literally thousands of organizations to see how we are working toward acting sustainably. If that organization is truly carbon neutral. So now we're getting into an area where we're proposing we're carbon neutral. We're putting on Instagram, we're putting on Facebook, we're putting on LinkedIn, we're carbon neutral. But if I have your data, now I can really see if you're carbon neutral or not. So that's one thing. That's some discussions that I'm having from a research perspective of, if we're actually making people if we actually have that data to truly be transparent, how many people will truly be on board? But I think that in order to achieve a more sustainable world, we need that transparency. So machine learning is one thing that's very important. Moving on to a developing process within this space is process intelligence. So within process intelligence, we can have from an enterprise application perspective, we can track all of the processes, all of the keystrokes, all of the executions within an enterprise application. From a project management perspective, we can track all of that information from a project management perspective so that the system can inform us of any adjustments that need to take place. So this process intelligence can make a positive impact for global change. So we have all this, and that is essentially, the maturity of an organization from an AI perspective. Now, you'll have different models, you have different methodologies, but at the foundation of this is data. And one thing I always talk about, the most important thing as we're moving into this Web3 world, as we're moving into this digital world, the most important thing for an organization, for citizen scientists, is the data, right? The data you have to have clean data, you have to have accurate data, right? And that's why, I try to blend these practices of artificial intelligence and blockchain, because blockchain is going to provide that transparency for an organization. So as millennials and Gen Zs want more transparency, they want to understand where their materials are coming from. They want to understand, is the cotton that's in that jacket or in that shirt that they have on coming from ethical sources, from sustainable sources? And if your competitor has put that information on the blockchain, then those consumers are going to say, why aren't you on the blockchain? Why aren't you transparent? What do you have to hide? And then if you blend that, if you blend that with AI, then I think that we're going to achieve a more sustainable world. I think we're going to have a more equitable world, in my opinion. Right. So we have to democratize this technology to make blockchain, to make AI available for everyone. So that leads me back into the initial question of, what are your top 2 SDGs, and how can you all focus on those top 2 SDGs to lead to a more sustainable world? So for me, for my project, I am leveraging AI to address the UN SDGs. I'm leveraging AI to look at previous projects. So again, the individual who used AI to fight hunger. I'm working with him. I'm working with his team to retrieve that information so that I can leverage an AI tool. I can develop an algorithm to see what things worked well within his project, what things did not work so well within his project, so that I can make better informed decisions, so I can mitigate risk in my AI sustainability project, right? And then we're going to have this data to be accessible to everyone, so that they can, you all, hint, can look at that information and mitigate risk. Because yes, I'm focused on sustainability, but sustainability and diversity and inclusion, and this data should be an aspect of every single project. In order to achieve a sustainable world, sustainability needs to be at the heart of every single project. So to wrap up, I forgot to warn you, I get passionate about this. So to wrap up, the key takeaways to this is to get back to basics. What I mean by that is you have to get back to basics in terms of data. Right? You have to ensure that your data is clean. You have to ensure that your data is accurate. You have to develop an understanding of augmented intelligence. Augmented intelligence is where, we're going to leverage this tool, because AI is nothing but a tool. So we're going to leverage the AI tool to inform us of decisions. Okay. And we need to assess your organization's digital transformation maturity. And you also would need to assess your own digital transformation maturity. Do you have deep knowledge of business process automation? Do you have deep knowledge of robotic process automation? If you have good knowledge of leveraging Siri, how can you transform that? How can you transform that mindset to an enterprise application? How could we work with our organization? How could we work with our business partners to automate processes from a BPA perspective? And then I would say, most importantly, you have to create buy-in from an internal and external stakeholder perspective. So that is everything that I wanted to discuss. If you would like to have any questions, you can reach out to me at jlg566@psu.edu. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn. And we have a new project that we're kicking out called sidtech.ai, where we are blending artificial intelligence and blockchain for this Web3 world. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Any questions for Justin before he heads off for his day at work? That was a really, really informative presentation, and it's absolutely amazing what we're able to do with the tools that we have access to now. I mean, to be able to simulate your project plan and find out what your chances are of coming out on budget, on time, is I think an incredibly valuable tool to have. I think anybody in project management will certainly support me on that one. It's a very, very tricky world to be in, and I think it's quite a, I suppose it would give opportunity to people that aren't as meticulous in their detail and good at planning and things like that, to have a tool like that, because just because you don't have certain skills, it doesn't mean that you wouldn't be able to do well in that type of role.
Right. And again, it's just a tool. It's just a tool, and that tool will fill your gaps. Right. Everyone's not an expert in there. Everyone's not an expert in everything. Right. If you're an expert, then we're making a lot of money. Right. So we all have gaps. We all have gaps, and AI is only a tool to fill those gaps. Even if we think that we're professionals in a certain discipline, AI kind of provides that continuous improvement in our discipline. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited about what the future holds. But my thing is, we have to leverage these tools for good and not just profitability, because at this given point in time, we're just leveraging these tools for profitability.
No, absolutely. I've got a question for you here. Are we not at risk of losing all our skills when we give it to the machines?
So this is actually a question I've been asked before, because there's one tool out there now called GitHub Copilot. So GitHub is an open repository that developers upload all of their code on. Right. So developers learn from each other using GitHub. But then GitHub, owned by Microsoft, created an autopilot tool, an AI tool, where you can write one line of code, and then the actual AI tool will finish coding it for you. Right. Wow. That one's revolutionary in my opinion. But I don't think that it's going to have us lose our skills. I think that it is going to have us to continue to upskill. But given the world that we're in, we have to be upskilling anyway. Right? I'm getting my third master's right now from Penn State, right? So I'm maybe that's just my mindset, where I want to continually educate myself to prepare for the future. But we should all have that mindset that we need to continue to upskill, because we're going to continue to make the world a better place if we do that. So the machines, at this given point in time, the machines help us with repetitive tasks. So that's what Elon Musk said that robot is for. It's not for taking away jobs and things like that. It's to make people's jobs easier.
Yeah.
Right? I know all of us have administrative tasks that we don't like doing. I have a lot of them. So now I can leverage these tools. I can leverage this AI tool. I can leverage business process automation to automate those tools, so that those repetitive tasks, I can take away from those repetitive tasks to focus on more value-added activities. I can take away from those repetitive tasks to focus on my 1-year-old daughter. Right? So that's where I come from, and that's why I'm very very passionate about this. That's why I'm very positive about this. Yes, people think that these tools are going to take away from jobs. I say they're not. I say that these tools are going to allow people to upskill and focus on more value-added activities. And when you focus on more value-added activities, you get paid more. How much more time do we have?
Another 10 minutes.
Okay, 10 minutes, perfect. All right, so perfect example. So I did a panel discussion with an individual. He's a VP of an insurance company where they insured Home Depots and Lowe's and things like that, right? So his people were literally risking their lives walking on these roofs to assess the insurability of these buildings, right? But then they leveraged drones. So now the people that were risking their lives walking on these roofs are now on the ground, looking at these, watching these drones, controlling these drones. So all of these individuals were trained to be drone pilots, and now they're safer. And because drone pilots are in high demand in the industry, they're getting paid more. So they did not have to lay anybody off. They actually had to hire more people because they brought in more business because they were able to automate the process, and they were able to serve people. So previously they were so backed up because you had to wait for an individual to walk on these roofs, which takes hours of prep time. So now you're cutting out all of that prep time for someone to walk on a roof, and now you're able to serve more clients on a daily basis. So now you are increasing your profitability. You are hiring more people, and those people that who previously were in risky roles are safer and are getting paid more due to automation and technology, I should say. Drones really aren't automation, technology.
So I have another common question for you. Automation is a very difficult topic in South Africa. What do you tell all the unskilled people why they're not necessary anymore?
So whenever you say unskilled people, why are they unskilled? They're unskilled because they haven't had training. If you educate these individuals, no, I want you to check me on this one. I want you to check me on it because I want to see what your thoughts are. So they're unskilled because they don't have the training, they don't have the education. So if we democratize education, if we provide quality education, one of the SDGs, we can make those unskilled people skilled. But you do have to be someone that wants to learn and learn those new skills and learn those new trades. You can't fight this technology. You can't fight this technology because this technology is here. So now what's your doubt? What's your rebuttal on that one? Tanya? Because I'm looking at it from a US perspective. I can't hear you. Oh, man.
Try again. And now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, there's something going on with this mute button here. We have a very big base. I mean, I think it's 42% unemployment in South Africa. The schooling system is questionable at best. So we have masses of youth unemployment. We have uneducated people. So, I mean, and they do menial tasks to earn money. So the minute that you start doing, automative and things like that, there will be a need for less people. So a lot of people that potentially could have been educated, for starters, we've got to bring them to a base point. Never mind, taking them up to a level. But there are tasks. There will be less positions or opportunities available the minute we start running with this type of automation. So before, where we had, for example, silly things like in Europe, they have automated flashing signs and merging signs when you're on a highway and they're doing roadworks. We don't. We have people that do that. We have people that literally will flag you down. So those are the types of differences that we have here in Africa. It's kind of very primal still. Whereas in Europe and the US, you are that much advanced. So we have those things against us. So the minute that we start talking about these things, immediately it's kind of a threat to the people in general, because like less jobs, and I mean, we can't afford that. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, I think, for us in South Africa, in terms of if that makes sense. So that's my input.
It makes complete sense, because we, like in the US, we have certain mandates, like in New Jersey, for example. Yeah, New Jersey. Like, people have to pump your gas. So to keep people employed, people have to pump your gas, right? And New York, there's some toll booths where they employ people. And some toll booths, you just pull up, you grab the ticket, right? And some toll booths, you have someone working a toll booth that hands you the ticket, right? So that's where the government and certain local roles will actually kind of mitigate that. So you have that, and this is it's an ongoing discussion in terms of automation. But like I said, automation is here. And I think that you have to be able to work side by side with automation. Now that didn't come out right. I know my brain's thinking something, but it's like, but and that's the thing. Like, people, whenever I speak with manufacturers, you have someone that's been working on the floor for 30 years. They've graduated high school. They've been in that same factory for 30 years. So I was working with a union implementing an ERP system. And because those people thought that ERP system was going to take over their job, they were a union, they busted out all the desktops on the floor, because they were resistant to change. But then whenever I went on the floor, and I explained to those people, I said, this is going to make your job easier. Because I said, let me ask you something. I said, how long does it take you to report your production? He says, well, I do my work. I stamp out all my blanks. I'll walk across the plant for 10 minutes. I'll talk to my buddy for 5 minutes, and I'll go out and have a cigarette. So I said, by the time you do that, you didn't spend 2 hours, because they got paid based on piecework, right? So by the time you do that throughout the day, you didn't waste 2 hours worth of time. I said, what if you put this screen up, where all you have to do is turn around, type in what you're doing, go back to work, and start getting paid again? That would work. I said, exactly. This technology is going to make you more money. It's going to make you more money. That's automation, right? So if you explain how technology is going to benefit the individual, it's what's in it for them. It all comes down to what's in it for me. It all comes down to that. If you can explain what's in it for them and how it's going to positively impact your life, that's how you're going to get people to embrace it.
No, that's a very, very true point, and I mean, I can relate to the examples that you give, because we have the same thing here. We have people doing things that needn't be doing it because we need to create jobs. So they need to be taught that it's, we need to teach people it's not a threat. But someone's made a comment here about teaching our kids all the wrong things. What we're teaching our children as they come through the education framework doesn't equip them for this way of thinking. For this new world that we're in. It's so antiquated that, even now, I look at my son's, some of his lessons, and I'm like, why are you still learning this? What value does this add anybody? So, that's a conversation we can have for days, because it really does ruffle my feathers.
William, connect with me on LinkedIn. I think we're going to get together. We're going to get together just fine. And that's the thing. I'm an academic as well, and I say I used to make the strong statement that the higher education system is broken. I kind of retracted that. I got my hand slapped. So there's room for improvement in terms of higher education. And my thing is You're teaching students to be workers. If you teach students to be entrepreneurs, they'll be able to think critically. So now they'll be more effective workers. They'll be more critical thinkers in the workforce, right? So in my SidTech project, we just signed an agreement with 15 institutions across India. So we are bringing in real-time education for artificial intelligence and blockchain, right? And what we're doing is we are looking to create the world's largest incubator. We want students to innovate within higher education. And if you're familiar with blockchain and smart contracts and NFTs that are going on right now, whenever you create an NFT, you put in that smart contract, every time that NFT gets sold, that creator gets a certain percentage. So within our solutions, that student that creates, every time that transaction executes, that creator gets paid. They get their royalties forever.
Wow.
That's the way things should be. So if you have that mindset, if you incentivize people with that mindset, they're going to innovate. They're going to innovate. And with our SidTech project, whenever we have our students, I just got a student from University of Texas. He's absolutely crazy. I say, Josh, a year from now, I want you out of here. I want you out of here to start your own company. If you're still here after a year, we're holding you back. That's our mindset. We are incentivizing people to leave because we want them to innovate and create their own.
Yep.
Right. So this thing, we're at the cusp of the next revolution.
Yeah, absolutely.
Artificial intelligence tool with artificial intelligence, we're seeing it with blockchain right now. You're seeing a lot of millionaires in 2021 because of blockchain. I had students in my class at Penn State that seen the vision, that believed that were envisioning of this blockchain space and this crypto space. I had 20-year-old millionaires in my class. Because they understand it. They get it.
Yeah.
But
they do.
Education.
They do get it. But I mean, the key is innovation and creativity. And those are going to be the drivers for the future. But so we are now over time. Justin, thank you so much. It was such an interesting conversation. Fantastic presentation. I think it's got all of us thinking about, how this is going to affect us, our futures, our children's futures, their futures, and we've got to really take a look at how we're doing things now and what do we need to do to embrace these new ways of thinking and artificial intelligence and all those things. So thank you for your time. Thank you for getting up early for us. Can I get a virtual round of applause here for my main man for his early start this morning?
Yeah, and everyone please connect with me on LinkedIn.
And I certainly
DrGoldston.com. All right.
Okay, so we hope to have you back again soon with some new updates on what you're busy with.
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot coming out in the blockchain space. I can tell you that for sure.
Okay, well, we look forward to hearing more about that. Thank you so much. You have a super day.
You as well.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Please don't forget to complete the polls before everybody disappears. On the right side of the panel. We'll see you in a session shortly. Thank you, everybody.